Welcome back, my students, to another episode of Comic Class. And in today's episode, we're taking a look at Nick Spencer's The Amazing Spider-Man Volume 5 behind the scenes. And yeah, this is part 5 of my Nick Spencer The Amazing Spider-Man run. And yeah, if you haven't already, go check out the other 4 videos that came before this. There'll be a link at the end of the video to go check out that playlist. And yeah, without further ado, let's jump right into this volume. Let's go. So this volume pretty much starts off with Peter and Mary Jane basically just enjoying each other after the events of, the Hunted story arc that we covered a few days back. And yeah, so, they're basically just enjoying their time together, talking about the events that had just happened in the previous volume. And it's pretty good, guys. So after this, we get to see that Mysterio is actually talking to some type of psychiatrist. And he's basically revealing, all the stuff that he has done in his past, his different times fighting against Spider-Man. And this is basically like a character study on Mysterio, as the therapist basically tries to get him to admit that maybe he's just crazy and is imagining Kindred. This is where, Kindred makes an appearance and shows himself to the therapist and Mysterio, with the therapist getting away. And Kindred isn't really happy with how everything has been going down. Mysterio kind of like bets for his life, but this isn't, good enough. And Kindred basically kills Mysterio off in a pretty brutal fashion, with a smile, saying that he's sorry. And yeah, so after this happens, we get to see that Peter and Kindred must be linked somehow. So I'm really interested in who Kindred actually is. But, Peter wakes up from a nightmare, and he says that this wasn't just some, regular nightmare to Mary Jane, that he finally has the name of the person that has been kind of like, torturing him, like with fear in that, and that is Kindred. So I think this is the first time we ever get to hear Kindred's name in one of the volumes, so this is pretty interesting. Now, after this, we get to see that the psychiatrist that was talking to Mysterio was actually the real Mysterio, and the Mysterio that we saw was actually the psychiatrist being tricked into thinking he was Mysterio. It's pretty cool. It's something you would think Mysterio would be able to do. Just Mysterio's not dumb. There's times where he acts kind of stupid, but overall he is sometimes have his smart, brilliant moments, and Kindred realizes this and tells Mysterio that he's not happy that he has failed him many times. He even says, that he knows Mysterio's going to say, "Give me another chance." But after this, we can see that he hands Mysterio a sort of paper, like a script. So I'm guessing he's trying to get to Mary Jane. Mary Jane is an actress, so I'm thinking that's what's happening right here. But we'll see what happens in the next volume, if that plays out or not, this plot point. But yeah, so it's pretty interesting. So we move from that, and we just see that Peter actually went out to look for Doc Connors, basically Curt Connors, the Lizard. And he's having to fight all these type of drones and machinery that Curt Connors has set up to kind of keep himself at bay, just in case if he goes berserk as the Lizard again. And these machines do not play around. They're really giving Spider-Man a run for his money. After this, we get to see that Electro, the female Electro, basically arrives to where Mary Jane is at to do some type of gig, to be in like some type of play. And yeah, but before we dive more into that, we go back to Peter actually fighting more of Doc Connors' machinery, and this is where he's basically told by Spider-Man to stop and that it won't do any good. And Spider-Man just says that he's glad to see the Doc again. Now, before we go more into that, because this story kind of like moves back and forth, we get to see that Electro basically makes her appearance and is gonna keep everyone hostage to try to become more popular. Like she says, it's like the first live hostage, I guess, trying to make fun of social media, which is okay. So we get to see that she's basically putting up a show, and near the end of this whole fiasco, basically, Mary Jane dresses up as the Invisible Woman, because it's supposed to be like some type of Fantastic Four play, I think, or something like that. And she uses a type of water background set to kind of like drop it on Electro and kind of like spill all this water on her, and this kind of like short circuits her. So she's defeated by Mary Jane, which is, you know, pretty lame. I don't know why, but this whole volume is based off the female supervillains, but they really do seem like cheap knockoffs of the originals. They really don't get anything done. But we'll talk about more of that when we get later on in the volume. So basically, Mary Jane has her moment. We go back to Peter and Doc Connors, which I believe is the meat of this part of the story, and they're basically having a discussion about where they should go from here, because Curt Connors is scared that he's going to lose control again. That's why he's using these drones and stuff like that. So basically, Spider-Man tells him you need to call them off. You know, he can't hold them off forever, because I mean, they're just coming at him like a ton of them. So finally, Curt Connors agrees with Spider-Man, and he uses Billy's birthday basically to, you know, deactivate all the machinery. And this is where Spider-Man puts Curt Connors, he kind of like does surgery on him, I guess, with Curt Connors machinery. I mean, it's pretty weird, like it's pretty advanced stuff. I'm not sure if that's Curt Connors machinery, or is that Dr. Octopus's when he was in Spider-Man's body machinery, or is it Spider-Man's? I have no idea. The point is that Spider-Man puts the chip back in Curt Connors so that he can control his animal side, his lizard side again. And this is where we get to see that Curt Connors goes back to his family, and he's reunited with his son and wife. And this part of the story ends with Mysterio basically saying that he wants to work with Mary Jane, which leads me to believe that in a future volume we're going to get this confrontation with Mysterio, Mary Jane, and Peter Parker. But we'll see. After this, we go into the second half of the story arc, where we get to see that Electro is being sent to prison, and she's basically saved by the rogue gallery of the Syndicate, I think is what they call themselves. And yeah, it's a bunch of female supervillains that a lot of them are based off previous male supervillains in Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery that kind of like, I guess, took up the mantle. Because we do get to see like this female Dr. Octopus type girl. I'm definitely going to be searching up, you know, when she made her first appearance. I want to learn more about this character and what exactly happened to Dr. Octopus. I mean, is he really gone forever? I just, he is one of Spider-Man's favorite, you know, villains, basically. You know, he's a very good villain. So, I mean, I didn't really like that. But, you know, overall, we go forward. We just see that Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin, basically thinks he's getting a treasure trove. And it turns out that Boomerang, you know, tricked him once again. And he's pretty mad about it. And he says that he will get what's rightfully his and that he'll make him suffer. After this, we get to see that Electro is introduced to the Syndicate, basically. And they ask her, you know, where she wants to be in the Syndicate and what her plans are, what are her dreams, basically. So it seems like she's going to join them. After this, we get to see that the Boomerang, Peter, and Robbie Robinson basically are here at the place that was introduced in the last volume with Aunt May and Robbie. We're going to work on this community center, I guess, to help the people in New York. Yeah, and it's pretty cool. Now, this place gets attacked, and Peter saves Aunt May from getting killed. This place is pretty much attacked by the Syndicate, who are going to be the villains of the second half. And yeah, so they engage in a battle. Peter goes to, you know, get in his Spider-Man suit. And while this is happening, we get to see that Boomerang basically has to take on the Syndicate by himself for the meantime. Eventually, Spider-Man arrives with Boomerang, and he says that Spider-Man and Boomerang are finally teaming up. And they go in, and you know, it's a pretty cool fight scene. Eventually, Boomerang messes all this up though while they have the upper hand, and uses a type of a boomerang that has sleeping gas. So this actually knocks out Spider-Man and allows Boomerang to be captured by the Syndicate, which is crazy. But after this, we get to see that, you know, Robbie Robinson is actually dating the Beetle. And Spider-Man is not a fan of this, of course, but Robbie actually is not happy that the Beetle actually admits to kidnapping his friend Fred. So they kind of have like a falling out, and she leaves. Basically, you know, this is a pretty cool moment. Just again, it shows character development for Robbie Robinson, who isn't as important as Spider-Man or Fred / Boomerang, but they still gave him this development, which is, again, a sign that Nick Spencer is a really good writer. He makes everyone important in his story. We get to see that Wilson Fisk basically arrives to where the syndicate is, keeping Boomerang, and he says he's gonna break the doors in and basically arrest all of them. So this is where Spider-Man arrives, and he takes on Wilson Fisk's people, because he knows that Wilson Fisk wants to kill the Boomerang, or at least capture him and then kill him. So he has to protect Boomerang, he has to fight against Wilson Fisk's people, and it's pretty awesome. This story built to Boomerang telling the Beetle and everyone else that the Beetle kind of betrayed them, and that's why Wilson Fisk is there to capture all of them, and that she actually stole the idea from him. The Beetle basically is going to try killing the Boomerang, but then the Boomerang hands her a note and says that, it would be horrible for her to kill him, and that once she reads the note, she won't kill him. So basically, she reads it and agrees with the Cinnamon, and basically tells everyone that they cannot kill the Boomerang, that he's too important. And this is where we get to see Spider-Man kind of getting overwhelmed by Wilson Fisk's people, because he knows that they're good guys as well, and they're just doing their job because he is the mayor and they are police. So he's kind of pulling his punches, but this is where the Syndicate shows up and basically attacks the police officer / Wilson Fisk's people and helps Spider-Man get Boomerang out of there, which is this leads to a pretty cool fight scene with Spider-Man saying that they're not allowed to kill anybody if they're gonna help him out, and basically says that he'll tell Robbie if she does kill somebody, which will pretty much end the relationship for sure. Robbie doesn't want her to be a supervillain, so it looks like that's gonna be her character arc, is learning to kind of let this go. But we'll see if that happens in the future of the story of Nick Spencer's run. But yeah, so that's basically what happens. They have this one final battle, and Spider-Man, saves the Boomerang and tells Boomerang that he needs to let him know what exactly it is that Wilson Fisk is after. Why would he go to such far lengths? Why would everyone care so much about him? This is where Boomerang says that he's going to have to sit down. That's going to be a long story, because there's a lot to talk about, and I do think this gets revealed. I think I had read an issue where this is told to us, but we'll talk about it when it gets there. It doesn't happen in this volume. So they have that talk, and this is where we can see that the Beetle and the rest of the Syndicate basically are captured by Wilson Fisk. They're heading to prison, and they get kind of like broken out and saved, but it doesn't say who's the one that did it, I think. So we get to see the very end of the story arc / volume where Robbie Robinson is greeted by this dude, this giant dude, and basically tells them, who he is, and basically he says that he's there to help them rebuild. And this is where Aunt May basically tells Robbie Robinson that they just got a donation by somebody, and that is a lawyer and can help them rebuild and be better than ever, and that her name is Janice Lincoln. And this is, the Beetle's real identity, I'm guessing. And this is where Robbie, is asked by Aunt May if he's going to be available to have lunch with her. And he says that he just might be. And that's the end of the volume, basically with Robbie Robinson looking up and seeing the Beetle, kind of showing that she does regret, hurting him in the way that she did. And showing that she might actually change her ways. So yeah, that was, Nick Spencer's The Amazing Spider-Man Volume 5 behind the scenes. It was a way more quick video than the Hunted volume. I wanted it to be that way, because really, while going through this, it's not bad, guys. But at the same time, it's not that deep. It doesn't have a lot to talk about. And, it's nothing like Volume 4. Which I don't think we're going to get another volume like that until maybe the 2099 story arc, which is Volume 7, I believe. And yeah, so Volume 6 as well isn't going to be that long, probably a video. But yeah, behind the scenes isn't bad, guys. Just like all of Nick Spencer's run, even though some of them might not be like the greatest thing ever, they're still enjoyable and good. And that is the same to be said about behind the scenes Volume 5. Volume 5 is enjoyable. It's clearly a filler of volume. I mean, there's no denying that. Volume 5 and Volume 6 really do feel like filler volumes that are enjoyable in themselves. But until we get to 2099 Volume 7, we're not getting into some deep lore / plot points, really diving forward into the story. It's just not going to happen. And I do appreciate Nick Spencer doing that in a way. Yeah, it would be awesome if we were going full force the entire time, but I think he does this to really develop the characters, and that does help in the long run. So overall, I would say I do recommend it, and there will be a link in the description down below. As always, to go check it out on Comixology and support it legally. If you're new to the channel, guys, I review Marvel and DC trade paperbacks slash volume reviews, and I also am going to be jumping into Image in the next month in February. So if you're into like stuff like Spawn, which I think is going to be the first one I'm going to be covering, and Deadly Class, those are two series I'm going to be doing full series reviews, volume reviews, I guess you could say, up to current on the channel. So if you're fans of those series, I would suggest subscribing as well. I have a lot of stories that I'm looking into covering here on the channel from Marvel and DC. So it's just going to be awesome, guys, in these next few months growing the channel. And if you can, guys, please share the video to start growing the channel, because I'm a new YouTuber, and I would really appreciate it. Also, leave a comment as well telling me what you thought of Volume 5. What did you think of it compared to Volume 4? Do you think it was a huge step down, or do you think that it works as a filler volume? Let me know down below. That's going to be all, guys. Until next time, God bless you, and until the next lesson, keep on reading.
I am who I'm meant to be. I am who I'm meant to be. Over and out again. My future needed clarity.